Karen, can you hear me? It's recording.
What?
Unmuted. How come I'm not hearing anything? Oh, well, I can hear something.
Wilma, can you hear us? Can you hear us?
Yes, we can hear you.
Yes.
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 All right.
Hello, Emery.
Hello.
That's your grandson?
That's my granddaughter.
Or your granddaughter, okay. All right, for those of you that's on Zoom, right after we do the invocation and the Pledge of Allegiance, we have public comments. If you want to comment on anything, you have 3 minutes. Unmute yourself and identify yourself, and we'll get you on the record for wanting public comments. Matter of fact, Willie, should we do it now?
That probably would be a good idea.
All right, we're gonna record you now for those who want a public comment, and then we'll call on you. If you want to comment on our public comment period, identify yourself now. Going once.
Hello.
Brian,
me okay?
you want to comment?
Yes, sir, if that's okay.
All right, we'll put you on the record. Anyone else? Anyone else? So on the Zoom, out of 30 people, we just have Brian Wolf, and Brian will call on you when we get to the public comment period. Up
Thank you.
until then, make sure you're muted. And then we're getting ready to go now. We'll call the Harrison County Commission meeting for Wednesday, July the 8th to order. If you'll please rise and join Johnny invocation, Johnny Davis, and followed by the pledge to the flag. Johnny.
Dearest Heavenly Father, we come to you today just pledging and hoping that you can give us your guidance and your wisdom meeting so that the commission can do the will of the people the way it needs to be done. We ask that you can forgive us, Lord, for all of our indifference and all of our justifications. And we ask all this in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen. I pledge
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, thank you. All right, first item is public comment. Mr. Parker, do we have people that signed up here?
Lynette or
And Eddie.
Lynette? All right.
Yeah, you can come on up and very informal, sir.
Well, I got, this fogs up my glasses, so my head dropped.
We're trying to hold it to 3 minutes, but
Okay. Of course, this is about the statue out there. Of course, you guys know it was formed in 1778, 233 years ago. Didn't do anything except stand there. Hadn't hurt anybody. The only thing it hurt was when I wasn't there, when my dad told me to be there, beat my hind end when I got lost. But what I know we keep on saying that Stonewall Jackson was a slave owner. But what I have here is how many slaves were slave owners? And out of 4,000 Negro slaves, they were called slave masters. They owned, after the Civil War, they owned over 20,000 slaves themselves. Each slave master had 100 to 50 to 200 slaves. And these were slave masters. And these slave masters would hire white people to make sure the work is done. 40% was in South Carolina, 40% Louisiana, and so on to Alabama. But what I want to really get to is people don't know, if they would read Booker T. Washington and Washington Carver, they will find out that Stonewall Jackson, even though he was a slave, his family was a slave master, just what you read. I don't have the DNA or anything. If we did, we can probably take the DNA of Martin Luther King to see if his family was slave master. We do not know. So what I'm trying to say is, when he had slaves, he took care of his slaves. He built a school, he built a church to make sure they can read or write to read the Bible. Not all slave masters did that. Once he went to the Civil War, he sent all his money back to this church to make sure that his slaves knew how to read and write because they were free. He freed all his slaves, but they still stayed for him because they knew if they went to other places, they would get captured. But a lot of slave masters, Negro slave masters, had come up to Stonewall Jackson and says, hey, buy my slaves, the ones I know is educated, because if they don't, they will go to the Deep South and they will not be educated. Booker T. Washington went through this, as smart as he was. He had talked to 3 or 4 presidents while he was alive. He was president of his college. He was principal, which we would call superintendent of the whole state of Alabama. These people aren't dumb. It's just that they're picking on people who are statues. Now, what in the world did Columbus do? You know, I got to check his DNA to see if he was a slave master. We can't do that. You know, if they want, what about the Buffalo Soldiers? You know, what about the soldiers that are buried in Arlington and everything? You know, we can't tear down every statue. There's nothing wrong with this one statue being here. If you're going to move it, where the heck are you going to move it to? Somewhere in West Virginia? You're going to move it to the cemetery? You're only half a mile from the courthouse. What's the difference? And once you move this statue, they're going to start moving the 10 Commandments. I guarantee it. And plus the Wounded Soldiers Memorial. They're going to start moving everything. That's all you got to do is open up a can of worms and everything's gone. And I appreciate if you guys would think twice on this and get a hold who's ever in charge. I know who's in charge. I worked with him for 40 years, but I can't say anything great about him, but just forget it. But the idea is he tried to educate slaves. Are we going to take the guy's statues down who try to educate them? Just like I said, I know my 3 minutes about that. Just like I said, if we're going to go that far, then we have to take DNA on every Negro statue that's standing up. We got to find out if any part of their family were slave masters. But every slave master had close to 150, 500 slaves. These are black slave masters, not white slave masters. And I want to thank you for hearing me, and I appreciate the meeting. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Mr. Parker?
Brian Wolf on Zoom.
Brian, you're on. You got 3 minutes.
Okay, thank you very much. 3 minutes. First of all, I think I have to say that I'm from Clarksburg. I grew up in the Northview area, and I moved away and lived in New York City for 17 years. And before I moved to New York City, I was an artist in residence for Harrison County. And that job, the fact that Harrison County employed me to be artist in residence, allowed me to save up enough money to pursue my career in New York. And for that, I'm very thankful, and I don't take it lightly or for granted. And I live in Pittsburgh now, and I teach at West Virginia University, and my mother still lives in Clarksburg, and I care a lot about my hometown. And I was self-conscious about revisiting the issue of the Stonewall Jackson statue memorial, because I didn't want anyone here to feel like we're taking steps backwards, because I know there was already a vote, and I've been following and reading along. And when I reached out, because I spoke with people at the courthouse because I wanted more information. I wanted to know, if I understand correctly, there was a vote that 3 county commissioners voted to decide whether the statue stays or whether it be taken down and returned to the Daughters of the Confederacy. If that's how I understand it. And what I'm interested in knowing is more specifically why the 2 commissioners who voted to keep it, what are their reasons for keeping it? Like specifically, why was that decision made? And I'd love to hear it from them. And that's what I was interested in. So the people at the courthouse encouraged me to attend this Zoom meeting to ask that. So technically, I guess I'm not looking for public comment. I'm looking for more specific information and answers from those commissioners. Is that possible?
Mr. Wolf, during this period, we do not respond, but I can tell you, you can email all 3 commissioners. It's very easy, and we will respond to your email.
Okay, I will do that, and I appreciate your time. If I may, then I will comment. I'm here in this Zoom meeting, and I heard the gentleman speaking. I guess he was essentially saying that not only white people were slave owners, I guess that was his point, or that Stonewall Jackson in particular was a good person who also owned slaves and did good things, basically. I guess that's what he's saying. And I understand that. I would ask you all to please research when that statue was put there, who put it there, why they put it there. Research the history of what the Daughters of the Confederacy is and what its mission was. Research an idea called the Lost Cause of the Confederacy. It was a systematic movement to distort and rewrite the meaning behind the Civil War. I encourage you to read the speech given by the Vice President of the Confederacy before the war, just before the war started. It outlines why the Confederacy exists. And if I'm going to understand why there's a statue of Stonewall Jackson erected at the courthouse where I grew up, and I saw it my whole life, my entire life. I looked at that statue when I was a little boy. I thought it was cool because it was a guy on a horse, and it's a beautiful piece of art in that sense. But when I learned more about what it is and why it's there and what it stands for, I know that it's wrong. I know that it's wrong that it's there. And I know it can be hard to accept that because it feels like it's a part of our history. When I read about the meeting on June 17th, most people said it's part of our history. If we take that down, where does it end? Where does it stop? And that's up for debate, I guess. But that particular statue, if I'm going to understand correctly, is erected because that man was born in Clarksburg and he was really good at war. He was a really good general. And he was brave. And what war was he fighting? And on which side of that, which army was he fighting for? He was fighting for the Confederate Army. So our courthouse celebrates someone who was fighting to preserve slavery. And yes, that's a part of our history, and we should never erase that. We should analyze it and and absorb it and think about what that means. But to have that on display in front of the courthouse sends a message that that's what we celebrate and what we're about. And the Daughters of the Confederacy, if you look on their website now, they have a statement about Confederate monuments. And essentially what they say is, I understand that some people interpret those as white supremacist monuments, but that's not what they are. For us, it means just preserving the history of our ancestors who fought and died. But that's not true. That's not why it was put there. And if I could say this, there's a poet named Maya Angelou, and she talked about this idea that stuck with me. I heard this many years ago, that if you have a bottle of poison and it says poison on it, if you take the sticker off and put another sticker on that says medicine, the contents of the bottle is still poison. And if someone says, well, that's not what that statue means to me, it's not about white supremacy and the preservation of slavery. And, you know, the truth is that's what the people who put it up meant for it to be, and we're celebrating that. And
All right.
I don't, yes.
Brian, your time is up. We thank you very much. We've made it part of today's record. We look forward to your email.
I appreciate that, sir. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Mr. Parker, is there anyone else?
Not that I'm aware of.
Hearing none. We'll get on with, that's the end of the public.
Can I just say one thing? It has nothing to do with Stonewall Jackson. Okay?
Since I gave him 6 minutes, I reckon you could, and you only got 3.
Well, I want to tell you, during Veterans Day, I'm out there at the Veterans Memorial in Bridgeport, and with Chuck Paul. We had, Chuck would know, we had this guy from Louisiana came up, and what he did was took pictures of all the Veterans Memorial. And when he was done with Bridgeport, we sent him to Clarksburg to take a picture of the Purple Heart guys, the Italian things, and Stonewall Jackson, and where he lives. And he said he didn't know anything about anything in Clarksburg. So he went there and he started taking pictures, which was good. Then, believe it or not, you're not going to believe this, we have 2 cars from South Carolina came up. And they were going because they were going to Grafton this for their dad and everything for the veterans. And Chuck told him, hey, this memorial, he sent them to Clarksburg to take pictures of the Clarksburg Memorial and everything, and the picture of Stonewall Jackson. They did not know Stonewall Jackson was born in Clarksburg. Matter of fact, I don't think they even knew he was a general. These generations don't know anything, okay? No history, no geography is taught in everything. So if you want to tear down something, tear down something. But that's just the way it is. But those people are so nice that they thank us.
Thank you for your additional comment. All right, 10:15, we have Jill Rafter, Director of the Clarksburg Harrison Public Library. Jill, come on in, identify yourself for the record, and we're all ears.
All right, good morning. Thank you for inviting us to talk about library funding today. I'm Jill Rafter. I'm Director of Clarksburg Harrison Public Library. And I just want to give you a little background. We are very fortunate in Harrison County to have 2 libraries that are well funded by their city governments. The Bridgeport and Clarksburg libraries combined have over 25,000 registered borrowers and check out over 23,000 items a month. Part of the reason we can do that is because of that municipal support. It would be impossible for Lost Creek, Nutter Fort, and Shinston to provide that level of support for their libraries. The reason we're here today is that we believe that those community libraries provide vital services that are in jeopardy if we aren't able to secure additional funding. I'm here because the County Commission funds libraries through a special funding law that dates back from the 1980s, and that law doesn't restrict the County Commission's ability to levy additional funds for library support. I have one very low-tech graphic that I hope you can see. This is just my tenure in the library. Our county funding has been relatively, it's stable, but it's pretty flat. And we're going up a little bit this year, we hope. But the problem is that in order to keep those smaller community libraries going, we need additional support. So I'm not going to talk a lot today because I want to let those libraries speak for themselves, and we just appreciate your time to talk about library funding.
All right.
Okay, some of you know me, I'm sure, and some of you don't. I'm Denver Atkinson. I've been with the library in Nutter Fort for many years, over 25, I believe. And our budget is about $66,000 a year, or maybe a little more. And a good portion of that goes to the salaries of the 2 librarians that we have. And the rest of it has to go for books and then maintenance and utilities and so forth. And everyone knows that utilities are going up, have been for the last several years. It's very difficult to try to keep up with the maintenance of an older building and the utilities and keep things running the way the money comes in. So we are more than happy when the commission last year gave us some money. We would like to see that continued if it's all possible. I think all of the libraries need the money. The libraries are a resource to the community. It's a resource that, if lost, it will be a great problem for the young people of this county to get the proper education that they need. Because without the libraries, there are times when they can't get things at school, and the libraries are the only source they have. Now, last year, if you had not given what you did, there is a library in the county that would have had to go under. There was just no way, and maybe 2, the one at Lost Creek and the one at Shinster. There was no way that their budget would permit them to keep going if funding hadn't come from the commission. They are a part of the county. All of the libraries are. And without your assistance, there are, again, some that may not make it. There's no way they can keep up the utilities, keep up with the maintenance of the building, and keep things going by buying the material that they need. That is new material that comes out every day. As you know, books come out every day that are needed to be read or they wouldn't be published. So, with that said, I'm appealing to all 3 of you to rationalize what I'm saying about the education of youth in this community, in this area, in all of the county, to keep our young people educated so they have some kind of a future and career here, hopefully, in this county, which, as you know and I know, without other things coming in besides the FBI and gas lines and so forth, that's not going to keep our young people all here. And we need our young people. They, one these days, are going to take my place and your place. And if they don't have the right type of education, how are they going to do that? So I appeal to you, all 3 or 4, as the case may be, to consider giving us at least what you gave us last year, if not a little bit more. Okay? Do you have any questions of me? You all should have a copy of the letter that Diane.
Oh, okay.
Dottie
We've got
did.
some extra copies here.
I have a letter, yeah, we wrote a letter and I have one for each of you to look at.
All right, we'll make that part of the record.
You're welcome.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
All right, anything else from Nutter Fort? Hearing none, how about?
Yeah, I've got a question.
Go
Yes.
ahead, David.
How many, computer stations do you have in the library?
How many computer stations?
In Nutter Fort, we only have 3 at the moment.
3?
At Lost Creek, we only have 3 running right now at the moment. We have 6 altogether, but we're down to 3 due to COVID.
And how's your internet accessibility from your libraries?
But
It's good, sometimes a little slow, the more people you have on it.
Paul? Paul out there?
Yeah. Hey, Paul.
We're going to give each of the libraries an opportunity to speak. So right now, we're just talking with Nutter Fort.
Any other questions, gentlemen?
Thank you very much,
Okay.
Mr. Acton. Paul, the commissioner has a question.
In some of these outlying libraries where, let's say, internet issues, is there something that we can do from the libraries to broadcast a bigger footprint?
If I can get a list of where those are, let me tell you some ideas behind that.
Okay.
Potentially using our vertical real estate.
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
What I'd like to look at so that we can give these libraries better access.
Okay, if I know where they are for sure, then I'll
All
start
right.
figuring out what real estate we have available.
Okay.
And I might add that the internet is one of the biggest sources that the youngsters use. Because they're looking for material, and usually it's on the internet if it's not in the library.
Right. Well, he's the one that handles all the towers in the county, so we'll see if we can't, work something out. I know that's something that Commissioner Treehouse wants to see out in the county.
I need to have a conversation with you on some of that stuff. From a question I heard the other day that I think we can help you with.
We can use our equipment to broadcast out something, I think that would make it.
All right.
Let me just insert that right now our network's provided by the state. So
Which we're already tied to, they're already in our buildings with fiber, so that goes a long way.
So, but absolutely, that needs to be supplemented. We had to supplement that in Clarksburg, and that supplementing that internet access would be really important for the libraries.
Anyone here from Shinston? No one from Shinston. Who is speaking for Lost Creek? Ms. Hall or Ms. Watersex? No one.
I would.
Well, come on up, identify yourself, Ms. Hall, and remember the librarian is watching you.
Hi, Wilma.
Hi.
I'm Tara Hall. I am from Southern Area Library in Lost Creek. And
Are you on the board?
Yes, I'm on the board.
Okay.
I'm a trustee there. And I also teach at Lost Creek Elementary School. I can firmly speak how well that our library, Wilma, works with our school, our teachers. The impact is huge. Our library at Lost Creek is very old, and the books at Southern Area Library are very new. And there's a huge impact, there's a huge relationship that we have with the library, and I see firsthand the children that utilize the services, the loaning books process, the field trips that we take. It's amazing. So I just wanted to speak that way. I also see many people that go and that Wilma helps them work on their resumes. So I just wanted to speak with that and how much it's so vital.
Let's see if Wilma's got anything to say. Wilma?
Yes, sir. I just want to say that we are thankful to the commission for everything that they do for the libraries. And with the extra help that we got a roof fix, thank you. And just keep us in your minds with the levy. Thanks.
All right, Wilma, thank you very much. Jill, we'll let you wrap it up.
Okay.
A budget number for your library?
Wilma, what's your budget for your library?
Our total budget is $38,343.
And what number of users come from Lewis County? I know you're on the southern end, and sometimes the numbers are only for Harrison County when in fact you serve a multiple county.
Yes, we have at least 25% of users that come from Jane Lou and outlying areas around Jane Lou.
Okay.
And we've got that library.
I don't know whether they do or not.
Weston. Jane Lou doesn't. Weston.
Do they have a library?
Not in Jane Lou. Weston
Probably Weston.
is the only library, yeah.
All right, thank you. Jill?
Well, I think our request is, what our hope is that you would be able to include libraries in the vital services levy. And I think the reason we're looking for that is that so libraries will have that money that they can count on, that they won't have to come to you each year with a request for a new roof or something, that this would be money they could know that they're going to receive and be able to plan. I think the situation really is dire. I mean, we've got libraries that aren't able to provide any electronic resources for their communities. Those are shared from Clarksburg, which we're happy to do. But all of that costs money. And I think that we need to invest in our libraries and in the future for our libraries. And right now, I think we're about around $3.50 per capita with our county commission funding. And I know this is a big increase we're asking for $75,000, but that would still, when you think about the per person cost, it's very low. And being able to share resources and share materials is what makes libraries strong. And we firmly believe that all of our citizens deserve high quality library service, and we just hope that you'll be able to help us make that happen. I don't know if Victor, our board chair, Victor Folio, is on. I don't know if he has anything to add.
Mr. Folio, unmute yourself.
There I go.
All
No,
right.
I just encourage the commission. I know that you've been big supporters of the libraries throughout the county, and I know Commissioner Watson that you were a big supporter of a possibility of a future of a one county system or one Harrison for a lot of things, and the libraries being one of those. But at the moment, that's not going to be possible. But for the current time, I do encourage the commission to do whatever they can, whatever they're capable of doing in regards to funding not only your two biggest libraries, Clarksburg, Harrison, and Bridgeport, but as well as the three other libraries within our county, because they're definitely deserving of it. And the you know, I've heard people talk in the past how libraries are going to the wayside, etc. I'm sorry. Every time I get on Facebook and someone sends me something from the Washington Post and I go to read it, they want me to subscribe to it. So where do I turn? To my library. That's where I go to read the Washington Post rather than having to buy a subscription to it. So I just encourage that that you do whatever you can in respects to funding these libraries. They're very well deserving of it, and our county and our communities here are very well deserving. These folks do a lot of good work for their communities, and I can't say enough about how much they're deserving of continuing this great work. So thank you very much for your time today. Appreciate it.
All right, sir.
I don't know if Bridgeport Library, I see that their trustee and director are online, the Bridgeport Library. I don't know if they have anything they'd like to add, but I just want to say that the problem we have with spreading our funding through 5 libraries is that we do have 2 libraries that are providing a lot of the services, and we don't want them to be neglected either. So I think that additional funding for all libraries is important.
All right. There are none.
Yeah, okay.
Jill, just to let you know, we've deferred to staff to take a look at this and
Sure,
apprise the commission on some options that we have available. Vital service levy does seem to be one of the areas, and I think we're going out. Is it in the November election, or is it on the vital service, Willie?
The plan is if we can get it on the November election.
November election.
To do that, so we'll need to have that ready August time period.
Right.
You're running
out of time. Yeah. All right.
All right. Thank you very much. Thanks for your time.
Thank you.
Could I speak a moment?
Please, who we have?
I am Susan Goodwin, and I am president of the library board in Bridgeport.
All right, Susan, go right ahead.
I would just like to add the comment that we certainly support library usage throughout the county, and all 5 libraries need support. None of us are just throwing money away because we have so much. And I particularly this year with all the virus issues and the loss of money across the board for all government agencies, I think it's very important that you consider our services, because they're still being offered throughout the county, even with, and we've got people beating a path to our doors, and I'm sure every other library does as well, because that's a place that people can go to get resources, even if it's a weird, excuse me, even if it's a very weird way to do it anymore. So thank you for your consideration.
All right, Susan, thank you. Go right ahead, David.
First off, I need to know if the 3 libraries have to be tied into the Clarksburg Library.
No.
So they can operate independently or as their own group.
I thought there was something about a certified librarian or something.
That's a state requirement that, that's what the Library Commission's requirement, so that's between those libraries and the Library Commission. The reason we have divided the funding this way historically is the funding law supports the Clarksburg Harrison Public Library, but there's nothing that precludes those libraries from receiving that funding directly.
And that's based on something that was done in the 1980s.
All right.
Does the school board support these 3 libraries?
Yeah. Can I say, go ahead, Gary. Gary's the incoming president of the Harrison County School Board.
About 4 years ago, and they know there was a court case that involved, up until that time, the school boards were required to provide funding to the library system. That court case nullified that. At that point, Kanawha County schools pulled their funding immediately. We haven't done that. We included, in fact, ours is included in our levy, so it's a revenue stream, just as you're asking the county. We have a levy coming up, an excess levy this year as well, so we'll be including that in the levy cost, so we're going to need some help on passing that levy, but we've made that commitment that we will continue to fund. I think at $100,000 level is what we're, 200,000 that comes out of levy money, so it's dedicated money. We intend to do that again.
Is that sent to the Clarksburg Library, or is it, how's that get divided
It
up?
is. It is because of that, the historical basis with the funding law. I mean, it's no longer necessary
Right.
because the board is not.
You don't have to do it, but if you do it, it's through that same mechanism.
And the money that we give is not through the levy, correct?
Money comes out of the general county
General
fund.
General fund.
All right. Okay, any other questions?
Yeah. Can staff look at, if we're going to do a levy, can we treat the 3 libraries separate from the Clarksburg Library?
In Bristol,
No. Agreed.
You can, yes, the commission could include the 3 as one group or individually within the levy call, 3, 4, 5, whatever the commission so desires. You could delineate funding in an upcoming levy as the commission so desires.
I would like staff to report back no later, if not the next meeting, the meeting after that, what these 3 libraries, funding costs are, what it takes to bring them up to date as far as equipment, and to look at Mr. Bump getting the proper internet if we can come off, and seriously look at bringing these 3 libraries up to today's standards and put them on the same level of education as Clarksburg and Bridgeport have. I think they've fallen behind. I'm not blaming anybody here in the room, but I think if I listened to Patsy the other day that it's important that we give kids education, and these places are out. We need to make sure that the children of this county do have that ability, and if it costs us some money and we have to shift some money around within the county's budget, then so be it.
All right, anything else?
David?
That's it. Hearing none. Patsy, anything?
Yes, sir.
All right, thank you all very much. We'll move on to our regular agenda. What's the commission's pleasure on consent agenda?
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Rowan. Thank you.
We have a motion to approve the consent agenda.
Thank you, too.
All in favor, say aye. Aye. Payroll change notice. Some part-time for, looks like recreation.
Yeah, and then there were some additions that didn't maybe make it on the computer agenda, but 2 security and 1 tax deputy, I sent out a revised agenda on that.
Do we have somebody that left the tax department?
Yes. Deanna Hoffman.
Oh, that's right, it was
Retired.
retirement, wasn't it?
Yes.
that come off a list, or do you know, how does?
I'd have to, Robert, are you still on there?
I am.
I think Commissioner Watson had a question of, how you advertise for the vacancy and how you went about selecting that individual for the tax office.
Just our normal procedure. We once we declare a vacancy, we bring the applicants in for interview. They interview with the chief tax deputy in this situation and the chief's deputy assistant.
Did you place an ad in the paper?
No, we have an ongoing. We take applications on a continuous basis, and we pull from that when we have vacancies.
Okay. All right. Motion on the payroll change notices. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Exonerations, corrective tickets, joint property applications.
The exonerations total $2,515.
All righty. All in favor, say aye. Consolidation of land, segregation of land.
We have none.
Item 6 is consider of approval of project fund requisition for payment costs associated with Charles Point Economic Opportunity Development District. Mr. Parker.
We have none.
Item 7 is review, discuss, and consider travel for Mr. Willie Parker, County Administrator for the County Commissioners Association of West Virginia, Canaan Valley Resorts. What's the pleasure? We have a motion to approve the travel. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Item 8 is discuss and review and consider the resignation of Joe DeFazio from the Harrison County Civil Service Commission for Deputy Sheriff, pending receipt of correspondence. Mr. Parker, I think you distributed a letter from Attorney Schaefer.
Yes, I had an email from Mr. Joe Schaefer that included had an attachment of the resignation letter.
Could you please read that into the record?
I can. Dated July 6, 2020, Joseph A. DeFazio, with his address listed to the Harrison County Commission, references Harrison County Deputy Sheriff Civil Service Commission position. Dear Harrison County Commissioners, by this letter, please accept my resignation of my seat on the Harrison County Deputy Civil Service Commission effective immediately. I am not currently able to serve in the capacity of Civil Service Commissioner due to health issues I am experiencing at this time. However, if at some point I am able to serve as a commissioner and a position is open at this time, I would request that I be considered for the position. Thank you for your attention to this matter. Very truly yours. Signed by his attorney, a power of attorney, Jill M. DeFazio.
Motion to accept.
All right. Any further discussion? Here or none? All in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Item 9, that since the letter was received for resignation, consider appointment of an individual to the Civil Service Commission for Deputy Sheriff for the unexpired 4-year term ending March 2nd, 2023. So there's only like 2 years left on it. What's the pleasure of the commission?
Move to go into executive session.
You what now?
Move to go into executive session.
All right. Do we want to do that now, or let's bring it to the end of the agenda, David?
However you want to do it, but I would put this in executive session.
All right. Yeah, let's defer item 9 then.
Okay.
To the end of our regular agenda. Sure.
Yeah, I would not see a problem with that as it relates to appointment on a board at this point.
Personnel. All right, item 10, Amendment 1 between Government Systems LLC and the Harrison County Commission. Mr. Parker, what's this all about?
This deals with our budgeting and payroll system. Ms. Thomas brought this forward, and it's just revising the agreement we currently have in place, as I understand it.
Does this have anything to do with our time and attendance, Susan?
Yes, that's taking away the payroll aspect, part of the contract with Avenue.
The other question that has come up is the system now, when I put my finger in and it shows Ron Watson, why do I need my badge number and all the others? They don't trust my fingerprint?
It's and I asked that question of Paycom, and we have a representative that may or may not be on there depending on the availability. Sarah Dinkart is on there right now, but it's you need the badge number so you can tell the clock what fingerprint is scanning, and then you scan the finger. So that's the reason for that.
Is that because of the type of clock that we have?
Yes.
Or is that with all clocks that they use?
I don't know if it's with all clocks, but I do know that's our
My fellow
situation.
commissioners know that these are used time clocks and not new ones.
Use time clocks? I didn't know, David, but
They are used, they are not new ones.
I would just assume that my fingerprint speaks for itself, and if we're electronically, it ought to be able to give my DNA and everything else.
Sarah, are you able to unmute yourself and address that?
Let's address this issue, Tom. Ron, that we're going to accept getting the money back from Pace, correct, Susan?
Yes, it's Avenue, it's our pay system, yes.
Move to approve.
All right.
And for the
All in favor, say aye.
president to fix his signature.
All right.
I'm here,
All
Willie.
right.
Can you hear me?
Yes, they may have a question that I sent through earlier as to why we need the badge number when we're doing a biometric scan of our fingerprint.
Sure. So with the way that our hardware clock works with biometric, as of right now, it requires the badge number first to basically tell the clock this employee is the one that is attempting to clock in, and then it requires the fingerprint to say this is the fingerprint for that person. Ensure that it is the correct one. It's the way to basically prevent buddy punching from happening. As of right now, the clock cannot just take a fingerprint because it would have nothing to tie it to. It would not be able to determine who the employee is. There have been certain requests in the past from clients, which it sounds like what you all are wanting as well, to just use a fingerprint. At this point, the technology within the clock does not accommodate that. It's something that we would be looking into in the future. However, it would have to be an entirely different clock. If that would be a future accommodation, we would let you all know. At this point, though, it would require both.
What did this system cost us, Mr. Parker?
The clocks were $18,200 for, I think we had 12, 14 clocks. I'd have to look and see. But then the Paycom is based on the number of so much per payroll based on the number of employees. Right now, it's an average of $3,000 per payroll, $72,000 a year in round numbers is what we're doing.
Can we get a clock that only takes the fingerprint?
Currently, that would not be available now.
What, from this company, or is there any other companies out there that may have a one-stop shop?
The clocks would not tie in with our Paycom system that we're utilizing. That's the reason we went with the clocks from Paycom, is to tie into the system that we've agreed to utilize, or the service.
Johnny, are there clocks out there that just work off fingerprint?
I would assume that there probably is, but none that would probably tie into the Paycom system.
But the ones we originally had did not require a number.
I am not sure. or we didn't get that far with the clock.
So we'll see how it goes. All right.
Which is item 11, which is the update or status report. I don't know if you have any other questions on the transition of our payroll services. Our first pay period ends tomorrow. And then the first check will be cut the 15th via our Paycom system.
All right. So we'll go to item 11, which is IT department. You say there isn't anything else on IT?
No, item 11 is the transition to the payroll services, if you have any update.
Oh, I must
On
have
that.
an old,
Item, oh, yes, 12 is then due.
I don't either.
Yeah, I sent out a revised agenda, but
11 is this.
the 11 is the transition of payroll services to Paycom, an update or report on that. 12 then is the departmental reviews. I did an
All
update
right.
on an agenda, and I didn't leave you a copy, I'm sorry. And evidently, we didn't get it changed on
Nope.
our website.
All right. Item 11 then, consider update status report on transition of payroll services to Paycom.
which
Ms.
we've
Parker.
just discussed, the badge number and fingerprint, matter with the clocks. I didn't know if there were any questions that the commission have, or if Ms. Thomas has other information to provide for the commission. I know her staff has been working very diligently in providing information to Paycom from our previous payroll, which was Avenue. Used to be ACS, used to be somebody else, Mentor. I mean, used to have a lot of previous names.
I'd like a description of how it works, because I've had employees say about having to approve their time, and then it goes on. I'd like to know the whole procedure from the time
The procedure is, I'll use myself.
he's one of the guys working down in the garage. Just got multiple hours in and out all the time.
For our central garage or,
Central garage is fine.
okay, Wayne Snyder, if he would clock in the morning, come in, punch the in button on the time clock, punch in his badge number, and scan whatever finger is recorded. The clock then gives you a message accepted with your name. If he would go out to lunch and be off duty per se, even though it's a paid lunch, you would punch that button for lunch going out and scan, and then when you come back, you would scan coming back in after lunch, fingerprint again, and then at the end of the day, scan out after you've completed your normal shift. That is stored in the system. If there's if he would forget to scan out at the end of the day, you can put in a request for a punch time approval request that the supervisor, Greg Dale, then could approve, and it would get added to the time sheet. If you forget to scan or punch in on whatever day. At the end of that pay period, the commission or the employee would go in and approve his time sheets, just like signing a paper copy of a time sheet, would approve his time sheet. And then at that point, the supervisor then would approve the time sheets, just like signing the paper copy that approves of the time sheet. And it's then transmitted to the system for processing and approval. Paycom does the processing. Susan's staff will be verifying this first payroll. We're actually going to be doing that and discussion with them as we proceed through that. But they take care of all the reports, all the remittances, everything along those lines. If I have a vacation day, or in this case, Mr. Snyder, if he had a vacation day, he can put in a time off request through the system for a time off. If he has a vacation day coming up in August or September, he can do that now. Mr. Dale can approve that, and that gets added in automatically at that point. and, then is calculated in as vacation or sick leave if it's a doctor's appointment, whatever the case may be.
How many layers of approval is it before it goes to take home?
2, the employee has to approve, and then the supervisor has to approve, and there's verification from Susan's or Ms. Thomas's payroll staff.
That's 3.
Yes.
So
And there's
3 levels of approval.
Yeah, and there's, adjustments that can be made if something's, missed or mispunched or misentered or whatever the case may
Who
be.
makes those changes?
That would be Ms. Thomas's staff would make those changes, just as they would now.
So if an employee has an issue with anything on his paycheck, ultimately he goes to Ms. Thomas to get it fixed.
Depending on what the issue is, I mean, if it's, if it's relating to hours approved by the supervisor, they would go to the supervisor. So Ms. Thomas's staff's not gonna have that knowledge or that information.
The supervisor doesn't make the change and it goes on to Mrs. Thomas, and
We're not gonna make any changes unless the supervisor approves it.
Yeah, they won't be making changes to timesheets. Ms. Thomas's staff won't. They're verifying that,
I'm back to the employee, says he worked 80 hours, but only 79 gets put through, who ultimately fixes it on the next payroll?
it'll be the supervisor coming to me. If it's a commission employee, or even if it's a constitutional official, they can come to me in that regard.
Do we have a chain of command posted for everybody to know?
Well, they should know, they already have one in their own offices. I mean, they should, they're supervisors.
Okay, so if somebody in your office that gets shorted an hour,
Come to me.
will come to you, and you can take payroll and have it fixed.
Yeah.
It happens in Rachel's office, they get shorted, she comes to you,
She'll approve whatever inmate tell
and
them.
then you fix the hours.
Yeah, it should, that's the reason for the employee approving their timesheet. Yeah, they shouldn't be shorted 79 hours unless they approved 79 hours.
Well, we said it could have a input stuff.
They could, but they should, that's there to review their timesheet. It gives them a total hours. If they approve 79, they'll paid 70.
And what if they and their supervisor don't agree to the time? So,
The employee is deemed correct until there's verification as, for example, if, a maintenance employee has to come in like last night and,
I'm still in this, if the supervisor doesn't agree with the employee, who settles the argument?
that'll have to come to the constitutional official and commission, the joint employers.
All right, I'm trying to
Yeah.
figure out how the system works.
Just as right now, if it's
Yeah.
a paper
The
system.
only thing, this is electronic, this is.
Yeah.
So that employees don't think they can handle certifying their pay, but their paycheck each pay out. And they have somebody else to do it.
Of approving their hours.
Yeah.
I would not recommend that at all. That's like somebody else signing that employee's timesheet right now, a paper timesheet. This is just an electronic approval signature process, if you want to call it that, versus the paper. If somebody's having technology-related problems, we can work with them, with our staff, and bring them up to speed, but it's easier than using an ATM card. It's very similar. There's no card, all you gotta do is remember the number and have your finger present.
You gotta remember which finger you use.
And
That's that.
then at the end, is you pull up the timesheet and there's an approval box.
It's called change.
I don't see, if someone's hasn't been on a computer at all or very limited technology, learning or capabilities, we can overcome that. That won't be a problem, in getting that done. But I know we had a
Help
request.
Whoever needs help. I would help anybody.
Yeah, I know we had a request because it's more than just approving timesheet. If I have someone's badge number and, employee number, passcode or password, as well as the last four of their social security number, I can get in and do anything then. I can get in and change their taxes. I can get in and request benefit changes. That person can do anything, and that would not be good. There's a, security issue at that point.
Are
So
we still using the telephone right now to sign in, sign out?
you can use an app, you can use your computer, and we're requesting people, if possible, to use the clock. Is what we're requesting people to do. Not everybody has that, depending on their work location and where they're assigned to, deputies or whatever the case may be, depending on the response, where they respond from.
So that's been, only certain people have that option? Or everybody in the courthouse has that option?
Right now, everybody has that option. You can restrict that capabilities as we move forward.
I think that needs to come with the constitutional officials' decision.
I would concur with that, yeah.
And I
Right
can tell you,
now,
mine are using their phones, most of them. Some are using the clock.
I don't even have it on my phone. I don't even have the app on my phone. I use the clock exclusively. It's just easy for me.
I don't know why we lost the clock.
That's just one of the methods we have.
Somebody on the phone doesn't have the same, control over their payroll as somebody on the clock, and I will not say that if you're going to allow, and this I'm speaking only as one commissioner, but one person as an employee of the commission can come and go on their phone, and others have to hit the time clock and are more controlled with their time, then I see that this is a failure.
Well, it's a matter of also, one of the things, depending on how the commission wants to, set it up, is we can, we haven't yet, but we can, just, timing involved in amount of time. You can restrict to an IP address, so I have to be at my computer per se of signing in and out. And as well as you can also put a geofence restriction on,
In other words, we brought this system and say we're operating it, doing our first payroll, and you're telling me, and this has anything to do with you, Susan, but as a group, this thing is set up.
we're in the process, we've had to bring in data and get that set up.
It's not set up, you all haven't done a geofence, you haven't set up to control out, signed in on phones or computers.
No, we have not done that yet.
That's an amazing thing to me that we're on the payroll, it's still more wide, this is wide open as what we were. This is my personal opinion.
That's why I would recommend people using the clock. That's the
The only
reason we
thing-
purchased the clock.
But it's not something that she doesn't want her employees to do it.
I didn't say I didn't want them. I didn't say that at all. And I'll tell you one thing we'll have an issue with, and I'm not opposed to using the clocks at all. I agree. The thing of it is, if you only have one clock on the floor, you're gonna have people waiting to clock in. You need to think of,
Because we're pushing a 4-digit number in, hitting a thumb thing and hoping it works, and then pushing a 4-digit number in again and hoping it works. And it sounds to me like we've got shit time recorders
I was not involved in the time
that
clock.
don't do the job properly, and it backs the people up. And I've heard nothing but where some people have to do it 5 and 6 times. I am not impressed that that's the kind of equipment that we're tied in with to operate our system. I think our people that we hired don't really care if we have this type of feature. They prefer everybody to use their phone because evidently their system doesn't work with a time clock.
I
If they
can't
want to
speak to
defend that, they can defend it, but that's why I have to look at it.
All I wanna say
We got
is
folks
my
on.
people have put a hell of a lot of time into this and have worked very hard.
Could have been any system they worked hard at.
Yeah, in the version of this system, There's a lot of information, and
Well, that doesn't have anything to do with what we're talking about.
I understand, but
It's when the employees get here and what they have to do, you all giving them the information. I don't care if it's X, Y, Z, RDL, whoever has to have the same information. It's what we give them from our employees.
Each supervisor can also go in and see when their employee is clocked in and clocked out if they
it
want.
takes 10 to 15 seconds, 10 seconds to clock in. I do it every day, twice a day, at least. I've never had a problem.
I forgot my badge number though.
You sure got your badge number?
I forgot my badge number and I'm sitting there thinking,
Then we'll have to get that for you. I mean,
yeah.
Yeah.
So it's automatic when I do my finger, that it automatically.
that's not an option currently. That is not an option.
Guess what? I'll never remember my number.
Write it on the back of your flight card.
Oh.
I mean, it takes, other than that, it takes 10 seconds or so to scan in. I understand if they have an issue, but if you've got 15 people all at the, not everybody has to use the same clock. We have one on the first floor, we have one in the basement, we can move the clocks around. They were just put there initially to see how many were used and when. If we need to move more clocks, we can. If you've got 10 people and it takes 10 seconds, or even if it takes a minute, that's 10 minutes.
And they're late.
You got a 7.5 minute grace period that they will kick back.
Somebody's late.
I need another clock. I've got 17 people that have to come to one floor, then go to their floor. And
We can do that. That's not a problem. Again, it takes 10 to 15 seconds to scan your fingerprint.
My problem is with COVID, are that I've got them all jumbled together, they're waiting.
Yeah. Even if everybody, all 17 people of yours showed up at the same time, it's 15 seconds a person.
Well, then why do you have an issue, Gary?
The clock only takes about, I have to say it, I love the Paycom, I like Paycom. I like the.
The thing about Paycom,
I know, I think, but I don't like the clock that works on about a third of, like, most of them get rejected. The thumbprint, I don't know
Then,
why. but
if that's
That's a hardware issue.
we need to track that, and I'll find out if the system tracks that. I've never had a problem.
Yeah, we do, I mean, most of them get rejected, but that's a hardware issue. I like the system.
Just don't like the clock.
Yeah, the hardware is my only issue, but, we're in there and they just have to log in on their phone, standing next to the clock, which is kind of dumb. But also, we've got 2 floors, and so when they come in or whatever, they have to come to one floor and then go back up and then back down. So sometimes I get people logging in earlier than they should.
For this whole thing before it gets to payroll people is that somebody better take a look at how these clocks work here.
We can take a look at that. We'll track, I don't know if they track how many, if the hardware tracks how many, rejections or problems there are. I know you've got to be careful how much pressure you use on the fingerprint and such.
I mean,
That's why.
I know people that sell this stuff for a living, and you don't have to. That's just too much bogus. If they can't supply some proper works and use facial recognition or use something else. So if we gotta worry about how hard we hit that damn thing to read a fingerprint, or whether they hit it hard enough each time, you can't do it 10, 15 seconds.
That's been my experience.
It's not fair to your employees to sit there and get up.
If there's problems with the hardware and maybe a particular clock,
It couldn't just be my clock.
we can. No one has brought to me that it's all of them. If there's problems with clocks, people are not reporting the problems.
We have, I mean, I know I've heard, but I haven't heard anything lately.
I know
They're all
But
giving
that-
up on complaining about it.
Well, I didn't hear that many complaints.
I don't know who they were complaining to.
That's the problem. People don't come, well, why don't you tell us?
I do.
Still
I've said
today.
from the very beginning, there's.
This is the first I've heard it from you. So,
Right there to him, and I've also
Yeah.
said I'd like to know when this commission approved to buy a used clock, because I never
No,
saw
I
that
didn't
on
have
the
any-
agenda.
That was a requisition that came through with the process.
That's not what I said. We approved the system. I never saw where we approved to purchase used clock. Did you two approve used clock? Ron?
No, not,
But I'll check into the hardware and I'll get with all the constitutional officials. If they're having problems with the hardware, we'll find out what the issue is.
what would a new clock do that the used clock is not?
I don't know.
It'll operate just the same. I mean, functionality wise, it's just the same.
Because a new clock can't just take my finger.
No.
Somebody from Paycom still on there?
No, she had to jump off at 11 for a call.
She had another call at 11 o'clock.
That's all I've got to say. I don't have any more questions.
All right, any questions, Patsy? Hearing none? All right, item 12, IT department. This is, reports from your directors. Charlie?
Stand over here. Whatever you want.
Okay.
Give us all good news.
We, got the tax office done, got most of Gary's computers in, don't we?
They're in, they're just not installed.
Got, county clerk, they were supposed to come from the state that the county clerk's in, they said, they won't be here for months. So we'll be putting those
what are you
in.
talking about?
Huh? Or not county clerk, circuit clerk. I'm sorry.
Are we talking about computers or
Yeah.
updates or?
Computers. Computers, the new ones.
New
we got.
computers. Okay.
Yeah. The ones for, Albert's office was pretty old. So, they're getting updated. So we'll have all them to install yet. Don't know what else you need to want.
All right, any questions? David? Patsy? Thank you, Charlie.
Okay.
Animal control?
I don't know if Elizabeth is here or Zoom. Elizabeth, you're on Zoom. You need to unmute yourself. Or Johnny does.
She can, I can. Oh, looks like she has to.
There she
Okay, can you hear me now?
Yes.
You can.
Okay, perfect. So an update from Animal Control, we received the West Virginia Spay Neuter Grant again this year with an amount of $6,000 with a matching contribution from the commission for $1,200. So that makes it a total of $7,200 to spay and neuter cats and dogs of low-income applicants. We started taking that application in the middle of May. We haven't really done a big media blitz, but I think I have about 10 or 12 people that have already received those. They have to be spayed or neutered at Audubon simply because they have a faster turnaround, and this is a very limited grant. So they've come up with a price. They just charge us a flat rate across the board, so it works out pretty well for us. The training for the West Virginia Board of Veterinary Medicine, Dennis and I went to on 6/25. That was our continuing education. That was delayed from 4/25. It was at Stonewall, so that's completed. They moved Whitney and Brenda's Board of Veterinary Medicine training to July. It's a 2-day euthanasia class, still be held in Morgantown. We've already paid for it, so it's just transferring the fees to the next class. We're still waiting to hear about our NACA, which is the National Animal Control Association class that Brenda and Whitney are registered. They were supposed to attend that in June. We're waiting to see if there is a class they can attend. They already have our money, but they're hoping to actually do an online version of it. So we're kind of waiting to see if maybe we can do that. That would save us a huge amount of, the hotel and food costs and things like that associated with their training there, if we could just do it that way. And then finally, we are applying for the Petco grant that we received a couple years ago. It's going to be available to government agencies only. We're requesting $20,000 again this year, and we'll be using that to vaccinate and deworm all of our adoptable animals that enter our shelter. Gina and I have a meeting today to work on that some, And so that's what's going on in the animal world. We started we reopened on June 1st with the rest of the county, obviously. Started taking out in animals, and it's been a crazy situation down here for a while, but we're managing.
All right, any questions of Elizabeth? Hearing none?
Thanks, Elizabeth.
Oh, we also are meeting today to discuss the applicants for our open animal control position. Justin, Lily, and I are meeting at 1:30.
All right,
All right, thanks, guys.
thank you. Community Corrections, Gary.
As you know, you guys are dealing with it on a larger scale here with the COVID. It's changed the way we've had to operate over the last few months. However, we are operating, we're open. We just had to scale it back so we make sure that we don't have more than 3 people in each waiting room. Luckily, we have 2 floors and we can spread them out. We lost an entire month's basically of billing because drug screening. We changed our drug screening protocol because we couldn't do urinalysis every day as we did, so we went to we have a blood card which will measure 30 days back and show all drug use, and then once we did that, after being closed for the several weeks, then going forward we use a transdermal patch that measures the 2 weeks out. So no one in our facility actually missed a drug test. They may not have done a UA, but they either had a blood card or a transdermal. So even though we were able to work remotely, everyone was drug screened as normal. Because of that, some of our billing was down, but even with that, we missed, a month worth of, one of our months worth of billing was down to next to nothing, but we still closed the year with an increase of $208,000 over last year. So we were able to do the same thing, another year of not asking the county commission for funding. We've been self-sufficient and continue to do that. We performed 8,813 drug screens last year. So that's obviously the bulk of our business. And with COVID, we went to online counseling. We're doing telehealth counseling, and that continues today. So we've not missed a single counseling hour. The counselors were counseling actually from home during COVID over Zoom, and they continue to do that. So we're not to the point where we can open up full bore, but we are open for drug screening. We just have to watch where the people are and keeping them separated on 2 floors. But other than that, we're surviving. So we've been able to increase, and even with COVID, it's encouraging that our revenues are up, 200,000 over last year. So that's encouraging, even if you're figuring we only billed for 11 months. So, any questions?
Anything else?
Yeah. I would like to say, as a 20-year employee and a citizen to the county commission, sometimes you don't get praised enough, but I appreciate the way the county commission has treated the pandemic as far as keeping the employees safe. I think this county's done an excellent job on what you're doing in the courthouse to make sure we're safe. So, thank you.
All right, E911.
I'll just jump right on to what Gary said, echoing the same sentiments and giving us the tools we need to mask up and clean up and whatnot. Everything we've not wanted for anything. I'm taking an extra thermometer, by the way. Try to catch you up for the last quarter. The 4 trainees we had, 1 has washed out, 1 has moved on to flying on her own, and the other 2 are very close to being released on their own, probably within the next month or so, working through some rough edges still. We've had 1 retirement and then the 1 washout, so that leaves us with 2 position vacancies, and we're going to start the process of getting applications, but the whole world of testing and whatnot is going to be a bit different than before with today's situation. So we've got to figure out how to test singly or we're going to do in that, but we're going to get that process started. Big projects have been ongoing. The statewide radio system upgrade is all but complete. All of the consoles at our facility have been upgraded. 2 of the network management terminals at our facility are upgraded. The only thing left that we've got to deal with, which should be in the next week or 2, is the recording connection. It's still recording, it just needs to be upgraded with new licenses and whatnot. But all the radio stacks at every site have been replaced. All the routers and switches have been replaced, and we're on the latest and greatest that Motorola has to offer now on a statewide level. This opens the door for us to get the Wallace site fired up, as well as the West Union, I think they're calling it, site fired up, which will help our people in and around the county. The other big project that we've been working on, obviously, is the CAD system, the CAD and the records management system. That is set to cut over to go live next week. I will say that for the next few weeks, things are going to suck. There's going to be a lot of kinks we have to work out, a lot of learning that's been done. We've been playing with it and testing it and whatnot, but it's a different world. We've been on our existing CAD for 20 years, and there's a lot of muscle memory that's been developed in reporting and entering calls and doing things. It has to be relearned. But we're up to the task, and again, there's going to be problems, there's going to be issues. I'm going to get grouchy, I'm going to get yelled at, and I know that's there, but we're going to move forward with that. One of the only thing that I've come to ask for today is, in the process of both the radio upgrade and the COVID response and certain CAD things, we found a bit of a shortcoming in the way we page our fire departments and EMS. Right now, it's a high band paging system, both counties. We use the 2 tones. Everybody's heard the tones and the siren going off and that kind of thing. When we have any kind of interruption in that, we lose our ability to page. And we can still text, but we can't get the voice page out. The other thing that happens is, if we have secondary pages subsequent, I need more help, I need loading assistance, need the tanker as well as the engine, those aren't getting text pages because the call is already in the system. We're setting off the tones and doing that. So people that rely on texting aren't getting the feeds they need. I asked around and checked with what some other people are doing, and Marion County is using a system called eDispatches that captures the audio from the page, and it can be in the center to where even if all the radio towers are down, it's still capturing the audio, tones and voice and whatnot. It encapsulates it and then sends it out to the subscribed cell phones in the system. It takes about 30 seconds of audio and about 35 seconds to capture the call and send it out. We've been actually demoing that. When I talked to Marion County, they said, "Hell, I'll give you a free demo, go for it." We've been demoing it for about 3 months now, and it's working very, very well. And I'd like, my intent is to ask that to be added to our system, but I wanted to have the opportunity to talk to you guys before I just sent a invoice or whatever up. The cost of that for both counties is $6,800 for the initial year, and then about $5,000 a year after that. And that allows us to send, again, the audio paging to any firefighter or EMS personnel that needs it, to where if our radio systems are down or if they're in a dead area for our transmitters, they're still getting their calls. That's the only request I have. And at this point, if you guys have any questions, and again, Pat, I do want to talk to you about some wireless stuff. I heard a comment the other day. I think we have some tools that you need to know about.
All right, questions, Betsy? David? Hearing none. OEM, OES. Laura?
Good morning, gentlemen.
Morning.
So far, we received our $8,000 EMPG check last week, which was for year 2018. All 5 of the mobile LPR systems, thanks to Charlie and IT working with Sergeant Lawless, are installed and working. So our Sheriff's Office K9 units actually have an LPR in each of the cruisers. So that grant is now completed, and I believe Gina's going to ask for reimbursement on that. The radio grants were closed out and completed, I believe, in May. Otherwise, here in the office, COVID has consumed everything that we've been doing, we're living and breathing it. In the past week, we've had over 20 cases of positives here in Harrison County. We currently have 84 cases, which is our total count from the beginning till now. We will be offering free community testing again next week at RCB on Tuesday, July 14th from noon until 7 p.m. The plan is to have 2 lanes of testing this time. That way we can get more people processed and through the lanes. Last week when we did the free community testing, we ended up testing 354, and the health department did an amazing job, but now we're going to try to do it with support of the National Guard and do 2 testing lanes next week. Last night, some storms moved through the county. We had about 3,500 people without power. Majority of those have been restored, and everyone else should be restored later on today. And then otherwise, besides that, I'd like to thank the commission's help and support during this whole pandemic. You guys have been amazing with anything that we've needed, and I truly appreciate that.
All right, any questions of Laura, Patsy, David? Well, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Updates on other projects. Gina.
Good morning. Right now, one of the main things that's a priority to me to get done this week is my schedule of expenditures for federal awards. That has to be turned in by the 10th of July. This year, they're including all state awards as well, so it's taken a little bit of time, but I plan on getting that in on time as they request. Also working a lot on the COVID grants. We did receive the reimbursement, well, we haven't received it yet, but we got the award for the reimbursement for the April and May expenditures of over $121,000. Actually, that was March and April. May, I'm working on to get it in by the 15th. I'm waiting on some information from bookkeeping, which they have been very good at supplying me with what I need. And also the June. I worked on another grant, the HAVA grant, CARE grant for Susan, submitted for $60,000. Haven't heard anything on that yet, but I'm sure it will be okay. And if whatever y'all decide on this other HAVA request that you have, so that's kind of out there, just keep me up to date on that. Cause
Either cut date or.
yeah, so let me know, don't. And there's one, yeah. And then we can also work with the health department. I'm waiting for them to get me information. That has to be in within 10 days for reimbursement for some of their COVID expenses. So Jessica and I have been working with that and Chad and trying to get that information in as soon as possible. Most recently, I submitted an application for the industrial access road out at, for the North Central Crossroads, which was denied because of being last minute. So I just want to really stress that if anybody has an IAR project that they want to get funding for, let's start on it early as possible. Let's not wait till the last minute. The last minute doesn't work. There's funding, the fund's gone. We don't have time to get all the information together that we need. The project has to be approved and all that. So, and keep in mind, I can only do one project per year for the county. So if you have anything in mind that you want to go for, please, let me know and let's get that started. Records management grant, we did receive that, and we're able to start on that. I spoke with Albert yesterday, so he's going to get his people started on getting that process done, which is scanning more of records and digitizing. Community corrections grant, we had the review on it, haven't heard anything on that yet as to whether we're receiving any money or not, but probably we'll get the same thing as we did last year, hopefully at least. Same way with the JRI grant. Court security grant, haven't done an application on it because no one's really given me anything to apply for. Somebody had mentioned cameras over in Magistrate's Department, but according to IT, there's cameras everywhere, so there's no additional cameras to be had over there. So, the other project that is pending is the courthouse facilities. That application is due October the 9th. So I've talked to Willie about it. We don't have a specific project. We need to come up with something. I hate to not apply again this year. I think in the past we talked maybe replacing some windows in the courthouse. So that's kind of an ongoing discussion. So if you all have any input on that, pardon me?
Grant is to be
It's 100,000 max, and it's a 10% match.
And we can do to look at the upgrading or freight elevator with that money.
That could be, yeah, I mean, that could be a project, yes.
Thought we just did the freight elevator.
We tried that a few years ago and it was denied. It wasn't a priority. They have a priority list that they go by as far as like accessibility, and that takes like priority over freight elevators. So,
Security grants.
pardon me?
Courthouse security facilities.
These are facilities.
This is the courthouse facility. Mm-hmm.
The security grant.
Well, that's what I was saying, that, I mean, I can apply for it.
Probably would not be eligible.
It wouldn't be eligible for that, no. The courthouse security is only for anything to help make the judges in the court, circuit court, and the magistrate court, and the family court
That's related
safer.
to the courts.
Yes.
And that's, I consider it an issue that one of the guys leaves the elevator up and then they're dragging prisoners down the public elevator to go back down and put them back in the public. That's a security issue that we're mixing some criminals with the general public because some guy left the elevator on the wrong floor. You can't call it back down to the floor that you need to transport prisoners, so it's
I mean, I can check.
Court security grants are smaller in nature normally.
Yeah.
But we'll check with that.
just if we could get regular controller on instead of a hand controller would be a big improvement, so those guys could call the elevator whatever floor they're on, instead of leaving it and going in the courtroom and getting stuck, then nobody has access.
I can check into it, see if it would qualify.
Thank you.
Other than that, Elizabeth spoke on the CARES, or the spay and neuter grant, so we did get that, and we're getting ready to apply for another one that just opened this month. And that's pretty much what I'm working on. I mean, other than keeping up with the TIF requests for reimbursement.
Patsy? Thank you very much, Gina.
All right.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm, you're welcome.
This is Prosecutor.
How are you?
We're doing fine. Rachel is here for
Executive session.
executive session. All right, before we go to there, commissioners' comments? Mr. Treecock? Mr. Hinkle?
Not at this time.
Nor do I. So with that, we'll go back to item 9, request to go into executive session, and I'm assuming this is on employee?
Yes.
Personnel?
Several things.
All right. They all qualify for executive session. Mr. Parker?
Under Western Indicated 698-4, the item that's on the agenda relates to the appointment of an individual, and I think that would qualify for an executive session under the code as I understand it.
So we need a motion to go in executive session. When we come back out, is there going to be any decisions made? Okay, so we'll leave that open. There may be action coming out of executive session. All right, motion to go in executive session.
So moved.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All right, we're in executive session, and for those individuals on Zoom, you can stay on Zoom. You'll be muted. Is that correct, Willie?
Yeah, we'll need to stop our recording, pause our recording, mute our phone. What I'd recommend the commission do instead of disconnecting, if we could move, it would be agreeable to the conference room for the executive session.
Okay.
And then return and then adjourn from here. That way you can just mute everything here,
All right.
pause the recording, and then come back.
We will be back. All in favor, say aye. All right, we're back on item 9. It's the appointment, consider appointment for an individual to the Harrison County Civil Service Commission Deputy Sheriffs for the unexpired term of March 2nd through 2023. What's the pleasure of the commission?
I'll make a motion to accept Jimmy Harris as the person to fill the space based on his qualifications as former county employee, has worked with 911 and has worked with the police department, and would represent the county to the best of his ability.
All right, we have a motion for Jimmy Harris. Any discussion? You know, we have others that also there too, far as discussion purposes. So on Jimmy Harris, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, no. No.
I'm ready to make another motion that this be tabled for 2 weeks.
All right, so we have a motion to table it for 2 weeks?
Yes.
For 2 weeks. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, no. No.
I make a motion to table it for 1 week.
All right, so we have a motion to table it for 1 week. Any discussion?
Yes.
Go right ahead.
I move that we table it to allow negotiations to continue, and I see no point at this time that we need to replace Joe DeFazio. There's no pending cases before the Civil Service Commission. None have been requested of the Civil Service Commission, and I think the commission is acting in haste to try to replace Joe DeFazio at this time, without giving it full thought and the reason why they are choosing to do so, and why they are pushing for this to be done.
All right, any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, no. No. Next motion.
Motion to replace Marcel Montague and Jim Bacon for the remainder of the term.
All right. So we have a motion to appoint Marcel Montague to the Civil Service Board. Any further discussion?
Yes.
David?
My two fellow commissioners have planned for this man to be put on the Civil Service Commission since first part of this year. I don't understand when it was discussed or why it was chosen. I was not involved in any discussions, and I find it unethical that two commissioners made this decision without being discussed in commission meeting, and that will leave me with no other alternative than to look at probably filing an ethics complaint due to the way that this has been handled by these two commissioners and the way that they have forced this man to be picked. And that's all I say.
All right, any further discussion? Yeah, I got the discussion. David, just for your personal knowledge, I had no discussion with my right hand over here.
I know that to not be true.
Then prove it.
I will.
Okay, you prove it. Other than that, you have a right to file whatever you want to file, whenever you want to file. So without...
It's pretty amazing, Ron, that both of you picked the same person.
I can't help that.
Mm-hmm,
I can't help that.
I know.
But in executive session, I gave you my reasons why I know Marcel Muffato
And I know
and why
that you
he's
two
qualified.
came to me back first part of the year with him and tried to get Joe DeFazio off without talking to him to see if he was to stay. You guys were gonna try to vote him off back the first part of the year.
I don't know
And we
about voting
changed
off,
that.
but
I got to get in there where it was on the, agenda, where you guys were gonna take Joe DeFazio off and put this man on. So you have had this planned for over 6 months.
you're wrong. Just let you know, you're wrong.
It's in the records.
Well, you got some proving to do there, dude. All right, any further discussion? Hearing none. All in favor, say aye. Aye. All opposed? No. All right. We have a motion to adjourn. All in favor, say aye. Aye.
No. I was not allowed to speak on my commission at the end of the meeting. I asked to refrain till the end of the meeting to speak.
Okay. We'll let you go right ahead, David.
First thing is, I would like to discuss is, I want to thank the people who have shown an interest in the Stonewall Jackson statue. I think that it's been very good for the public to make their feelings felt. I wish that some of the people would understand exactly what the Daughters of the Confederacy stood for. Hopefully, maybe somebody could work harder on that and do an article in our local newspaper so the area residents could understand the purpose of the Daughters of the Confederacy. Two, I find some things that we need to work on. One is I want to see money moved from rails to trails over to internet for school children. And the other thing coming up is the latest, and it'll be coming to the commission from the airport. It'll probably be looking for not 2 million, but for 3 million to make the mountain move, and it'll be up to my two commissioners whether or not they want that project to go forward, and that request will be in the next meeting, so that we know whether or not to proceed it here. That's it.
Is that the purchase property?
Purchase property and to, as a straight donation.
Is it gonna be like the property across the road, that's 1.2 million of the,
That's 1.7 million.
across the road?
Yes.
Okay. And then does that include the property, would it be a separate line, agenda item for the property on the side of the airport?
The 18 acres and the 61 acres will be one purchase.
Can you separate that?
We can.
Yeah, make that to agenda item, please.
Okay, I'll need Mr. Rock to send a request through, or somebody from the airport.
He's already sent you an email.
Yeah, I got the email. Yeah, I'm gonna respond and tell him I'll need a request, a letter of,
Just to let you know, if the minimum of the 2 million is not committed by September, then we will have to stop the project.
Motion adjourned.
Motion to adjourn.
All right, all in favor, say aye. Aye. We're out of here.